Well, I'm gonna attempt to shoot a vid here on how to repack Beaver Dam Tip-Ups. This one's about 35 years old, and you know, at the end of the winter, when they're getting frozen up and they won't spool out when you got a fish, well, I mark those at the end of the season and then redo the lithium grease. I need a little steel wool, solder paste, and a little torch that I got going. So basically, just have to melt the solder off the end here. And that solder melts, I'm just going to pull the shaft out, and I don't want to force it. So you'll see I'm just going to tap the last little bit of solder out. Pull the shaft out of there. I'm going to heat the tip of that up. And that's what I'm going to use the steel wool here for, to smooth that shaft down. Again, make sure there's no little pieces of solder burrs on the end there at all. Set that aside. Get a little piece of cardboard here for a spacer. When we set that back in there, we need a little space there, so we got a little wiggle room. You set that to the side and make sure it doesn't get dirty. Now, I'm not going to worry about that last little bit of solder down there because we'll need that anyway, but just so I don't forget, I'm going to put a little solder paste on there right now. Clean that up a little bit so that solder sticks good. Solder paste on there. Little chunk of solder. Just getting it ready, don't need it yet, but so you can manually blow out the old grease out of here. If there's any left, chances are there isn't any left, and that's why it freezes up on you and doesn't spool out good. So I take an air nozzle, that still had pretty good grease in it, and it's still got some good color, so not too bad. Probably didn't really have to be done, but pretty picky, and it's just easy to do. So now I want to put lube into this shaft. And I'll just squeeze it in there. You kind of get to know about how much you need, but you can always squeeze it till you get out the other end a little bit. But you're going to push some of that out of there when you put this rod back in anyway. When I put this in, I like to sit here and spin it. Tip it up so most of that lube will stay in there. Just keep spinning your way up and you'll see there's new lube on the other end. New lube on the shaft itself. So I'll just put that in a vise. Careful not to bend the shaft. Here's what we need that little piece of cardboard for. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm going to put it in there for that little spacer. Now you don't want to force the spool back on. You just want to set it on there so you can see it. The shaft isn't coming through yet, but it'll just drop on there when I heat this up. Leave the solder to the side. Turn my torch up a little bit. I heat the end of that up. It'll just drop right on there. See? Just dropped. As soon as it heats up enough, let it cool, re-spool it, and you got a fresh redone, ready to catch a big fish on 35-year-old brand new tip-up.